Hey guys, this is Nerdtaku Podcast. I'm your host, Eli. With me is my co-host, Ben.
Hey guys, happy to be here.
This is a series review. We watch it so you don't have to. This week we are reviewing the dark fantasy drama Carnival Row. Spoiler warnings ahead. Ben, my guy, are those spoilers?
Oh, there's going to be lots of spoilers in this one. There are twists and turns that weren't really expected. So yeah, you'll get some spoilers up in here. Directors: Thor Freudenthal, 5 episodes. Andy Goddard, 5 episodes. Julian Holmes, 3 episodes. John Emil, 2 episodes. Anna Forrester, 2 episodes. And Wendy Stansler, 2 episodes. Main cast: Orlando Bloom, Cara Delevingne, Tamsin Merchant, David Gyasi, Simon McBurney, and Carla Crome. The synopsis is: a human detective and a fairy rekindle a dangerous affair in a Victorian fantasy world where the city's uneasy peace collapses when a string of murders reveals an unimaginable monster.
My overall was an 8.25.
My overalls are a 7.25.
Ben, this was I like to say a journey. This was a very interesting take on the dark fantasy world that brought in the Fae. Ultimately, when we started watching this, I did not expect this to be anything good. I saw memes of Orlando Bloom's awful, somewhat Cockney accent. People were talking about it through the internet. It was a rough acting job for him, but overall, I found this to be actually a really pleasant experience. How did you feel overall with this experience?
I went into this thinking maybe it'll be good. I'll kind of give it a shot. Then I watched episode 1 and I'm like, I really don't know if I'm going to enjoy this, because that was a very long, not really explanative episode. For a pilot, it wasn't a very good pilot. But after about episode 3, the story starts to increase. The plot starts to thicken. Things begin to go into motion and start to really move. And I actually ended up engrossing into this story. I actually really enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised at how well this story was told. I actually really enjoyed this very interesting storyline. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
So, because there's 2 seasons, we're going to go through each season as its own, because each season by itself took 9 hours to watch. So, we're going to give it its dedicated time. So, we're going to go through season 1. We're going to start with plot. I gave that a 0.75.
I also gave it a 0.75.
I'm going to say this. The pacing in the beginning was long. It was really long. Like, I could feel me wanting to look at the clock at some points. I was like, episode 1, I'm like, okay, how much longer do I got? Oh, I got 25 minutes left. I thought I had 10 minutes left. By the end of season 1, it didn't feel like that. It felt like it was very concise on what they wanted. At some points of the plot, personally, I just didn't like little bits and pieces of storyline, because I was just like, you're all racist. You're all super racist. What they're saying, this is in the 7th century, so I don't know what kind of calendar they're using in this world, but it doesn't sound like it's that old. It looks Victorian era, 1800s style, and I just felt the pacing wasn't there. In the beginning, it took to like episode, for me, 4 or 5 to get that pacing really going. I just wish the pacing was a little better, because by episode 2, I was kind of losing a little interest. I was like, okay, I need to give this a shot. If I didn't give my motivation to keep going, I may have just like watched this over time, not for the podcast. So I give it a 0.75. I still like the story. I really like what they did for season 1, because it really led it to a season 2. I did not like Sophie. I do not like Sophie. I'm going to say that in the storyline. She is such a bitch. Oh my God. And the incest? My guy, the incest. Oh, ugh. Help me. Help me. So help me. That was disgusting. When you find that out, you're like, I can't look at you the same.
So Sophie is related to Jonah because mom had an affair with Sophie's dad. Philo is related to Jonah because dad had an affair with Jonah's mom, the Fae. Philo and Sophie have no relation, but Jonah and Sophie are half siblings and they fuck. That's where the incest is.
Jonah is the link between these two. See, there's the weird part about this plot. That's why I can only give it a 0.75. There's too much in some parts like that.
There were basically 3 different stories going on. Season 1's main plot was the story of Philo and his life and him getting his head together, getting his story told, trying to figure out who murdered his mom. There was a secondary plot of Vignette trying to get her life together and find herself in this new city, in Carnival Row. And then the third plot is the story of Imogen and Agrias trying to figure out what their feelings are, what Imogen thinks of Agrias, finally figuring that out towards the end about episode 6. It took a minute for them to actually mesh together. It wasn't until about the end of 5, beginning of 6, when all the plots started to kind of intertwine, except for Philo's story and Vignette's story. That intertwined about 3-4 episodes in. But boy, there was a lot to it. Like Piety being the one who fucking conjured the damn thing the whole time. You didn't see that coming. All you thought was that she was a friend to the witch. But then it turns out that she's even more powerful than the witch, and she was able to conjure a very nasty, nasty creature to do her bidding. The whole reason there were killings is because she found out by Sophie's fucking letter that Philo is the illegitimate first child of the Chancellor, Chancellor Absalom. That's what started this whole damn thing, is because of that fucking letter. I gotta say, I absolutely despised Sophie, but she was a goddamn genius when it came to getting what she needed.
Yes, I totally agree with you there.
This plot went forward, sideways, backwards, up, down, any direction you can think of to keep you confused. I love that it was a whodunit kind of situation where you're trying to figure out throughout this whole story who the actual antagonist is, who made this creature. And when the witch, just before she dies, and she says, "I see you, I know who you are," I'm like, well, let me see who you are, god damn it. But then shortly after you find out who it is, I was like, come on!
Also, can we talk about the Puck cult subplot that we're doing in season 1? That was nutty, where it turns out the servant who the former chancellor banished became riddled with not knowing what he wanted, and then he meets this monk Puck, and all of a sudden he joins the cult that wants to murder.
Completely forgot about that. That one just came out of the blue.
And they slap each other with like whips and stuff and like treat each other like they're Jesus Christ. It's kind of weird. The one thing I liked about the story was that you felt this plot just thickened so well by the end. What's going to happen in season 2? Ugh.
One thing I was kind of upset about at the end, I understand that it had to be done to push the plot for season 2, but I really wish that Jonah would have done the right thing and cut Sophie out instead of siding with her. I understand that needed to be there to push the plot for season 2, but he was such a good guy up until that moment. And then he puts this ban on the Fae and locks them in the row, is what they call it. I was sitting there and I'm just like, oh, but your character, you were so good. You knew what was right. You knew that your mother was crazy. She killed your father, and that you just.
What killed me about Jonah is that he was infatuated with the Pixies. He would go to that brothel almost every night and make love to one of them, and it's like he enjoyed that, thoroughly enjoyed that. So I think deep down he had a fond liking towards the Pixies. So it made no sense when he joined Sophie's side. I understood the plot point and all that. He's getting manipulated and told that he needs to do this to make himself a leader and a ruler and have a dynasty. Sophie was really on that dynasty crap, and it was just like, stop. Full stop. Ugh, it was frustrating, but I understand.
Yeah, I knew why it was there. I wish that it didn't happen because his character was so good. He was a good kid until Sophie came into the picture, and it ruined everything. Also, one other thing that I docked the plot for is there was so much nudity that didn't push the plot forward. So if you want to watch this with your family, you can't really, because there's so much nudity in it. Starting from episode 1, there's at least 2 nude scenes in each episode. It's not something that really bothers me personally, but you can't watch it with your family. It's not family friendly because of that. You could have just done kissing, laid down on the bed, blacked out, came back to them undercovers, like basically any other movie you're watching that does a quick sex scene but doesn't want to show the sex part of it. So they just black out and come back with them undercovers. You can do that and you can still understand, oh, they done fucked. Okay.
They dumb fucked. Acting.
1.
I gave acting a 1. The acting in this, I do say, I really enjoyed the connection that Orlando Bloom and Cara Delevingne had. I really do enjoy the connection they have as characters. I love Vignette, and I love Vignette just personally as like a character. She's this pixie who's trying to find her way, and you can see that she's trying to stay out of trouble. But then she finds her lover from the war, Philo, and she is heartbroken because she thought he was dead. In episode 1, it explains it fully. She comes into his room, puts the knife to his neck, and I just felt it with Vignette. I just felt it so strongly that it destroyed her. Throughout this whole season, you could see that these two had their own plot lines they had to go through, and you could see the struggle. You could see the ups and downs, and Orlando Bloom and Cara Delevingne did an amazing job. I did like Tourmaline, Vignette's best friend. I loved her character through and through. She was just so good. And I really did like Agrias. He was such a upstanding gentleman for people just throwing shit at him the whole time. I really liked the character. I really liked his poise and his tenacity to get the deal done of like, I want to fit in. Overall, I really did enjoy the casting, this cast. It was so good. It was just very well-rounded throughout the whole series.
I have to agree. I really enjoyed Orlando and his characters. I felt like you could really connect with Philo throughout this first season. He came back from a war, still has the battle scars. He doesn't fit as a pixie and he doesn't fit as a human. So he's trying to find that middle ground. If he tells the humans who he is, they will label him as a critch and discriminate against him. But if he tells the fairy folk who he is, the fae, he still doesn't fit. He's not full fae. He doesn't have his wings. He's not one of them. You could definitely feel the struggle going on through Vignette. She did an amazing job. I personally didn't like her character, not her, but her character. The way Cara delivered her character was amazing, absolutely stupendous. But I did not like Vignette herself. I didn't like her character. She bugged me. I understand why she was the way she was, but her character just, that's for character development. That's not for acting. But the way Cara delivered Vignette was amazing. I also really liked Simon Burney as Millworthy. I liked Millworthy. I liked how he was just a street performer. Philo went to him quite a few times just to get information on his mother. And the way that he delivered his street performances were kind of fun to watch. I liked Millworthy. He was an easy character to just understand, to follow, and to like. Imogen, she was in season 1, she took a lot to try to like because she wanted to be this popular woman amongst high society. Agrias moves in next door, and before she finds out who he is, she tries to pamper herself up, puts on that pheromone that's supposed to attract men towards women. And Agrias knew exactly what it was because he could smell the exact ingredients that were in this pheromone. When she gets called out on it, like she huffs and puffs. I thought that Tamsin delivered Imogen's character really, really well. Her and her brother Ezra, done by Andrew Gower, they're two characters together before Imogen shifts the way she thinks. Them together, you could see that they were the top of high society, and they portrayed these characters really, really well. All around amazing cast. That's all I can say. Just you could connect with every character. You could feel their emotion, their love, their hate, their sadness. It was easy to just get into the story because of the way they delivered their characters, and I absolutely enjoyed it. The acting was phenomenal.
Yes, the actors did an amazing job. From even the new Chancellor Jonah and Sophie. My gosh, she delivered that character, that actress. Oh my gosh, she delivered it so well.
Enough that you absolutely hated her, yeah.
Yeah.
Not hated the acting, but hated the character herself. She was meant to be hated.
Coraline Ford. Oh man, she was just outstanding, like one of the most hated characters within the short time she was on season 1. Short time.
She delivered it so well that the acting was amazing, and it made it so that you absolutely hated this character. I don't know how to explain it so well, but it was just wow. Best way to put it. Wow.
Wow. Yeah, I feel you. Character development.
0.5.
I gave it a 0.75.
I want to hear why.
I feel like I'm a little generous on that. I feel like I'm a little generous. Initially, like when I first watched the series, like season 1, it was a 1 because I was like in that high. But then I sat there and thought about it for like a day or two, and I went, no. Through season 1, I think the best development really was Philo when he was trying to discover his mother. He figured out so much more, and he grew not to hate his father overall, who became the Chancellor. I felt that Philo really developed through this case that he was trying to solve of all these murdered pixies, the assaults that were happening, and I felt like throughout the season he developed to where he accepted who he was and he grew as a character from that. He was trying to hide it so he could survive society's standards, but then by the end of the season he's like, nah, I'm a Pix, I'm a half-blood, take me. And he goes into the row at the end when they get all locked up to be with Vignette. And I really like that as a main character. That's something that's so important to me as a viewer, is that I'm seeing that. Imogen, she had a really slow development almost the entire season, but you could see it. You could see it was a slow development, but it was a good one. It was breaking her to try to have this relation with the puck, but also at the same time, she didn't know anything better. And I felt like her development was simple but slow. Throughout, you see like Vignette, her character development was lackluster through season 1. You felt like she was there to ignore the lover and move on, but then she still had her best friend who was a former lover, and she still had feelings. Her development was just everywhere. So I felt like with Orlando Blooms, it was really good. I really loved the backstory episode they did in episode 3. I really love that, how they showed that whole period of what happened. Why did they fall in love? How did they fall in love? What broke them to make this development so much strong in episode 1 of why she wanted to murder him? And I love the small details. Oh, the development was showing the small details. It was so good, but I can't give it a 1. It's not phenomenal, outstanding, fantastic. It's good. All right, smartass. Let's see what you saw that face.
Oh, I'm not being a smartass. I have quite a bit to say. Here's the thing.
Let's hear this.
Philo had very, very, very little development. Vignette had no development. You're right about that. But Philo's development was only strong because he said, yes, I'm a critch at the end to be with Vignette. It took the entire series for anything to happen. The entire time he's going through this show, all he's doing is trying to figure out who killed this Pix until he finds out that it's his mom. Then he really wants to find out who killed this Pix. Then he finds out who his father is, and there's no surprise on him. There's no hate. There's no love. There's nothing in his character. He's like, oh yeah, because you're my dad. There's no development there. The biggest development he had was when he finally said, I am a critch, and got let in. Vignette, no development at all. I could not handle her character. Acting phenomenal. Character, the way she's written, she messed up everything everywhere she went. No matter what she did, everything she attempted completely destroyed everything that Philo had just built. Philo was working to get the critch liked by the police, then come in freaking Vignette, and she just throws a big old boulder over everything that he had just built. A big old freaking backhoe just took it all out, like stealing the freaking flag. I understand she wanted a place in the row, but she completely went about it in the wrong way. Everything she did was just wrong.
Can we talk about the development of the Black Ravens as well? That was nothing. That was disgusting. It was trash.
Yeah, they didn't want any development. that they weren't showing any development in there because all they wanted to do was create chaos because they felt subjugated and wanted to be free, but they couldn't be free because they were living in human society in which humans treated Fae like they were beneath them. I mean, they could have developed, but they didn't. They could have become stronger by not destroying everything that Philo had built to give them more rights, give them peace of mind, but no, they decided that they wanted to attack the humans instead. I have to say, Imogen had the best development in season 1. She really did. She went from a pampered girl to being completely humbled and realizing that she can love something that society finds revolting. She falls in love with Agrias, not even trying to fall in love with Agrias. She didn't want anything to do with him at all. But as she got to know him, she fell, and she fell hard. It was really strong development when she's pointing the gun at her brother, the only person she's ever been around, the only real family she has, and she chooses Agrias over Ezra. When they were starting to lock all the Fae into the row, she said, "Let's go." And Agrias is like, "What? Let's run. Completely run. Let's just get out of here." That is the biggest development. It's huge, especially for Imogen, because this is her family. This is what she's known. But she's going to choose someone that she has fallen for, Agrias, over her own family. That is huge. She had the biggest development. Because it only went to really one character, I had to give it the 0.5. Philo did have a little bit there at the end, but the biggest development that happened in this show was through Imogen. I could only give it a 0.5.
I felt like with Philo, the part when he talked to that girl he was seeing living at the widow, when he told her, that was such a huge development to like keep her up. Like, I don't want to lie to you anymore. I actually have feelings for you. I want this to work. So I got to let you know I'm half Fae. And she took it so wrong. And that was one thing that I felt like was really good, was that he starting there, and that was episode 6. He went and did that, and then he got arrested at the end of episode 6. He was talking to Imogen's servant about his mother, and he gets arrested, and she's like, "I wish I knew where he was and what happened to the kid." And when he got arrested, he's like, "At least you get to know where he went." And then she realized, oh no. What he was opening up so much more near the end. I agree. It was at the end. In the beginning, they were just trying to build these characters up and like try to get you to like them, and there wasn't anything there. I like the little touch that he kept the little hairpiece love symbol from Vignette. I love that character development a little bit, where he kept it in the drawer. He always kept it near him. Sound and Music.
0.75.
I gave that a 1. That was some of my most favorite orchestraic pieces throughout. I really did enjoy the sounds, the tones that they were giving throughout every dark scene. I love the slow ambience noises they were giving. You could feel it when Jonah was talking to Parliament. The sounds of duh, 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 duh. He was just going deeper and deeper into, we need to lock them, we need to destroy them, we need to cage them. Like, the music just gave it so much life. It gave it so much chutzpah. It was so good throughout. The sad moments, you felt the violin in there, and you just felt the orchestra just playing so smoothly. It was just so clean to me.
I tried to give it a 1, but for me, a 1 means absolutely phenomenal and fantastic. But I can't quite say that it was something that 100% pulled you into the scene. It was the acting and the plot and the cinematography for me that really pulled me into most of the scenes. So, yes, it was great music. They set the scenes up really well, but for me, it wasn't enough to pay less attention to what's going on in the scene and listen to the music like in some other movies we've reviewed and watched. This one was more, oh, that's good music, but I'm paying more attention to the scene than the music. I don't know. It just wasn't enough for me to give it the 1. It was great, but not phenomenal.
And I see where you're coming from. There were a little bit of moments there, but for me, I really did enjoy it enough to give it the 1. Cinematography and animation.
0.75.
I gave it a 0.75. I felt like they put a lens on the camera and made it really dark. My ideal one is that I'm able to watch it on any device that I can get my hands on. If I can watch it on my phone, I'll watch it on my phone. If I can watch it on an iPad, computer, TV, etc. It should be able to be watched on any device. I watched this whole series majority on my phone, and I could say that I had to be almost in a dark room to watch this series at most points because it just felt like the camera was just dark. I just felt like every time I try to watch an episode, I'm in a semi-bright room. I could see the reflection on my phone, and my brightness was all the way up. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why is this so dark? Amazon, come on. I understand you're trying to give me the dark tones and cinematography. Some of the shots were great. I loved some of the back shots, the zoom in shots. I love the scenery, the B-roll shots. They were amazing. But like your tonnage is so rough. At some scenes when I'm sitting there watching on my phone, I'm like, wow, this is unwatchable unless I'm sitting in a dark room. So I have to stop watching it and wait till I'm in like a situation where I can sit and watch in the dark. It was just so not there. It was too dark in my opinion. The tonnage was just not there. And some of the animation I felt like was just a little gimmicky. Some of the CGI, I liked it, but it just felt a little gimmicky. Like you could see that it was going to be animation. It wasn't as fluid as I thought it was going to be from an Amazon project.
I completely agree. I just felt like it was, like you said, way too dark. As if they had put a freaking cloth over the camera and shot through this cloth. It was ridiculous. And I really, really enjoyed the way they did the pixie wings. They made it look like a robe. And then when they were starting to fly, they came out and flew. I loved the wings. But I agree with a lot of the CGI. It was kind of, what kind of project is that? Are you a high school project? There were some scenes where you're just like, what? This came straight out of high school. You have the budget for this. You have money for this, but you make it look like a high school student and or early college project had worked on this.
Freshman film class
Exactly.
in college. I felt like this was a freshman horror film college project that they had to come up with the gore, come up with all this stuff. And I'm like, you're Amazon. You're $1 trillion company. You can't put a little more money into this?
I completely agree. We have the same thoughts on this one. Some of the CGI was just terrible. Like even Agrias's bottom half, his freaking hooves and his feet, you could see kind of stumbling and fuzziness in the CGI. Wow, I saw better with freaking Chronicles of Narnia than I am right here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It wasn't so bad that I couldn't finish watching it. It was just enough that my attention kind of got pulled to it. But for the most part, the cinematography was done well. The pan shots, the overview, when the pixies are flying, there are a lot of really good points to it, but there are still some that dock it. So I couldn't quite give it that one, but it wasn't enough to make me hate it. So a 0.75, I think, is pretty fair.
Yes, I totally agree. Directing.
0.75.
I gave it a 0.75. The pacing this director was trying to achieve was really rough. Episode 1 is supposed to be an episode where you captivate your audience, and I felt like he didn't captivate me in this first episode. I looked at it and went, I have a couple questions, but I could walk away from this and never get them answered. The direction that this director was going throughout the story was here and there. He was trying to combine 3 stories that could have been by themselves in some aspects, but try to tie them together. And he didn't really tie them together till season 2. I felt like this directing in season 1, mind you, there was a lot of directors. There were 6 directors throughout this series. So I could see why there's like a lot of confusion throughout the plot lines and the story. And I liked the story overall. I liked the majority of what they did, but I felt like they could have done better. They could have just focused on less directors, and they could have done a better job with pacing.
I have to agree with you there. I felt like they knew what they wanted to deliver, but they didn't quite get there because they had too many directors. I feel like that if you're going to do a series, 3 at most, 6 is just outrageous. It's way too many people directing a series because everybody has a different vision of what they want to deliver, and it just kind of it doesn't cross well most of the time. I think that, as you said, episode 1, the pilot, is what's supposed to catch your audience. It's what's going to make them come back. If you don't have them in the first 10 minutes of your pilot, they're not going to finish. I continued because I was doing it for the podcast. I'm going to be honest. That first episode, I would have been fine just cutting it. I'd have been like, cool. All right, I'm done with that because I've done that before. But because of the podcast, I was like, I can't cut it. So let's continue. And then it wasn't until episode 3, 4 when you're like, huh, okay, this is getting interesting, which is really bad.
Yeah, that's really bad.
You seriously, you can't do that, especially when your episodes are an hour long each. That very first episode has to be the kicker. It has to be the one that pulls your audience in. And unfortunately, this was not the case. I just feel like too many cooks in one kitchen. Just one director, maybe two. To be honest, three is still kind of pushing it. Again, six is just outrageous. Everybody has a different view. It's just going to push your story in a direction you don't want to go. And then when episodes are delivered, it just leaves too many questions. I just felt like that's how it went. It just left too many questions. It was too many storylines. It kind of went too many places at once.
I totally agree. Attraction
0.75.
0.75.
My main thing was the cinematography. It was too damn dark. I loved the look of it being a Victorian style. I loved seeing the older look of the town. I loved seeing the way the Fae were. I loved the idea of it being humans and Fae. I loved the acting. The development was there, but not quite. The plot was great, but it was just too damn dark. If they had lightened it up like they did in season 2, it would have been great. The attraction would have gone up, but because it was so dark, just like with cinematography, it dropped. Not to mention the first couple episodes were so hard to keep your focus on because they're just introducing all these people. It was just kind of hard. I also want to mention that I liked the opening scene. That kind of pulled me in because I've realized that after Daredevil was released, the TV series Daredevil, most shows are going with an opening like that now, where it's the outline, the waxy statue kind of look of what this is going to be based around, but it doesn't give anything away. It's kind of fun to watch, but I like it. The music is captivating. I like the opening scene.
I agree with you, like, full-heartedly. The darkness in the show was just so much that it became more of a deterrent, and the pacing was just so bad in the first few episodes. I could see myself continuing it, but in a more, this is going to take me about 6 weeks to watch it instead of 2. It was just nothing there to grasp in those first few episodes. It just felt like the pacing was terrible. I agree with you in the intro. The intro was actually really cool. I really liked the style of it. That's really much it. The story kept me a little attracted. It was really, the dark tones were just too much. Dialogue.
Oh boy, that one only got a 0.5 from me.
I gave it a 0.5.
There was nothing. There were, I think, 2 lines that I have written down that really popped to me. And 2 lines out of 9 hours. That is pretty sad. One of the lines is Vignette says, "Oh, Philo, how did we get so lost?" And Philo says, "We're not. We're found." In episode 7, Philo is in because he was found out by the police. His girlfriend, person that he actually had feelings for, after admitting who he was, what he was, told the coppers, is what they're called in this, told the coppers that he was a half-breed. They lock him up because they think that he is the one killing all these people off to keep his secret. And Vignette is in jail because she attacked the sergeant and she was arrested. So they reconnect in jail and she delivers that line and he delivers that line because they finally reconnect. And her vendetta against Philo just kind of goes away. Another one is when Sophie is talking with Jonah and she says, "Chaos causes opportunity." The Chancellor is killed. The letter was delivered to Piety to get her to do all this evil. And Jonah finds out and confronts Sophie, and they have this conversation. And then the line she delivers is, "Chaos causes opportunity," making it so that she is manipulating Jonah into keeping the Chancellor's position and throwing the Fae into a concentration camp, basically. There are 9 hours worth of dialogue and only 2 lines popped out to me that I really wanted to write down. That's pretty sad. So in that regard, I could only give it a 0.5 because most of the dialogue was just them saying "fuck you, fuck off, fuck, fuck, fuck," which I like because that's my word, but it didn't really push the plot. So 0.5 was deserved.
I agree with you there. The dialogue in this was nothing really too much to hold on to. There was like those two lines you said, and I can't really take a line from it. I think the one line that I could think of would be from the first episode when Vignette's over his body with the blade, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I hurt you. You didn't hurt me. You destroyed me." That's a line that hit just so hard. That's what got me kind of keep going. It was like, what destroyed you? This relationship was that like that deep? I want to know more a little bit. So that was one of the few lines that caught my eye, but overall, nothing. Scenery.
I gave scenery a 0.75.
I gave it a 0.75.
Like I said in Attraction, I absolutely loved the Victorian style of it. I liked it. I liked the way the buildings looked. I really liked the Chancellor's house. It was huge. His mansion was huge. It was gorgeous and absolutely just breathtaking. Even when Philo is going through this sewer system to find Vignette, it was fun to watch him try to maneuver through this maze. I also really liked the way they prevented pixies from flying was barbed wiring it across the top of the entire Carnival Row, like what you would see at a type of bird sanctuary where they don't want the birds to get out because they don't want them to get hurt. It's the same look. I don't know. There were just a lot of things within this series where the scenery pulled you in, where it looked good. I even liked the council chambers. It was just one big coliseum like thing where all of the council members were sitting, and there was one area in the middle with a little podium where two people would stand and talk to their fellow peers, like what it looked like in Greece. It looked like to me they based it off of a Roman Greece council chamber. It looked really cool. I really enjoyed a lot of the scenery. It just wasn't enough. I think it was just because it was too dark that I had to drop it to a 0.75. It just wasn't quite the one.
I feel you there. It was really dark. I love the Parliament's chambers. It was so cool to see the where you at the top there's two like thrones, one for the opposition, one for the chancellor, and the rest of the seats is from lower to higher. That's how high you are. And the monarchy was if you were on the lower row, you were like one of the top advisors. If you're on the top, you're one of the newer ones. It was really cool. I really liked the look of the rundown city. And throughout the series, it digressed. It became more just destroyed and just became chaotic. And I loved it. It was so cool. But like you said, too dark. Some of the details were lost in the dark, and I really wish that it was brought out more so we could see more details of like the witch's lair and like where she did all her witchcraft. I would love to see more details.
I agree. I feel like you hit it right on the head. A lot of the detail was lost in the dark, and I couldn't have said it better. You put it perfectly.
Recommend.
I gave that a 0.75.
I gave that a 0.75 as well. I see this first season overall as good. Not great, not terrible, good. It gave that feeling of it's a journey. You got to give it a chance. I know the first two episodes are going to be slow, but overall, you will find some joy in it if you really like a dark fantasy drama and like you want to see this story unfold. It does become a little more political near the end, but overall, I felt like it was a really good story, and I would recommend it to someone if they were willing to give the time. The episodes are an hour long each. I know that's kind of hard for some people. Like, that's a long time to dedicate to a show. I'd recommend it to someone who is interested in the fantasy world aspect.
I would recommend this to many of people. I really enjoyed it. The main reason why I dropped it was because of the nudity. I feel like there was so much of it in there that didn't need to be in there because it did not push the plot forward. It kind of felt like I was watching a softcore porn on my couch.
Or
And my
Game of Thrones?
roommate, yeah, and my roommate could walk in at any point and just be like, "Yeah, don't mind me. I'm just sitting here watching some porn. It's okay. It's on my couch. We're good." No, it felt like I had to watch this in my room away from everybody because there was just too much in it. It didn't need to be there. It didn't push the plot forward. That really is the only reason that I would drop this because I actually enjoyed the story. The plot was really well done. It's just stuff that didn't need to be in was in. And so I can't recommend this fully because I don't think a parent wants to sit there with their child while people are getting naked on screen, you know? So that really is the only reason I dropped it. It just didn't need to be there.
Yes, I totally agree. Overall, through this conversation with you, Ben, I changed a lot of my numbers throughout, and my score actually dropped to a 7.5.
My score stayed at a 7.25. I did not move anything.
Talking with you, I realized like binge watched this. There was a lot of information that left my brain, and you explained some things, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is yeah, and I agree with you there. So I changed a lot of my answers, and actually dropped down to 7.5. So that dropped me, I think, 0.75, almost a whole point. So overall, I think this series was great. With the dark fantasy and the dark tones of the show, it was captivating yet too dark for me. I would give a side thumb to anyone who watches it.
I was pretty surprised at how much I enjoyed this season. Again, it was just the nudity. It doesn't really bother me much, but you want to watch this with your family. That's not something you're going to want to do because there's more nudity than needs to be. But for the most part, I enjoyed the plot. I liked the characters. Well, I liked the acting. Some of the characters, I was just like, God damn it, get off the fucking screen. For the most part, it was pretty dang good, and I would give it a not quite a 3 o'clock. Let's do a 1:30 thumbs up. If you want to watch it, just maybe don't watch it with your family.
Next week, we're going to go into season 2. And with season 2, they did release a trailer for it. I watched the trailer for season 2 before I started watching it. And I'm getting these vibes of, okay, there's a war, it's going to be a revolution, and it's going to be a lot more fighting, a lot more gore. I don't see it getting better, in my personal opinion. So I'm going to give it 5.5.
I watched the trailer, and with how much I was pleasantly surprised with season 1, I feel like I might like season 2 just as good, or if not better, hopefully better. Watching the trailer, it looks like there's revolution, there's more fighting internally going on. Maybe, I hope Vignette's character gets better. She seems like she gets a little better. She seems like she's a little more mature. I'm going to give this one a chance. I'm going to give this a 7 because I was very surprised with how much I liked season 1. So I'm hoping season 2 does better or at least matches it. So I'm going to give it a 7 and hope that I don't overhype it.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. But as always, guys, I'd like to thank all of you for tuning into this week's episode of the Nerd Taku Podcast. I am your host, Eli, and as always, Ben, I appreciate you coming on the show and spending this time with me.
Of course, there's only a few episodes left, guys. Please, please, please give us some suggestions. We want to review more for season 2. We want to bring guests on. We want to try and do some live video. We're going to really make season 2 fun.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell everyone you know about Nerd Taku Podcast. As always, guys, thank you for joining us this week, and take care.
See you later, guys.